was in a bad relationship, and it just like all of that combined just wrecked me. And then that leads up to me going to the other countries and coming back. But through the whole history, I knew that what I wanted to do was film, was tell stories, was create, was advertise, and grow a business around that. And that's what I'm doing right now every day.
Awesome. So if you guys heard, there's a lot of persistency through that struggle. So awesome story. What I'd love to do is bring Stefan. I believe I'm saying your name correct. If I'm not, I apologize.
Yeah, Chris, we say it's Stefan rhymes with effin.
Stefan rhymes with effin. I like that, man. Hey, tell us about your history.
Well, my story's when I was 16, I wanted to be a rock star. And so I started a rock band, and I got really heavy into music. And by the time I was 22, I was graduating from the University of Manitoba with a bad English degree and a minor in music and a failing rock band. And I burned out. I read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I don't know. I'm sure there's many people on the call today that have read that book.
Yeah.
And after reading that book, I started saving up my money and taking real estate seminars. And after taking a lot of seminars and doing a lot of wrong things, I got myself into some hot water. And I finally hired a coach, a mentor years later. And with that coach, that mentor, I went from being broke with $1,200 of cash by about age 28 and a half. I became a self-made millionaire through real estate. And I actually won an award in 2014, Rich Dad International Hall of Fame, which is pretty cool to get that since I started reading Rich Dad, and I won that award. And since then, I published a couple books and got into the speaking game a little bit. And now I coach and help other people do what I did in the past.
Awesome. So share with us about, let's look at the consistency part of your history. So there's a lot of great achievements in there, obviously. What were the elements of consistency that brought you from one step to the next through your path of success?
Well, when I was a little boy, my mother forced me to play piano, and the deal was, we had to play the piano every day. And no matter what, you had to show up, you had to play the piano, you had to play your scales, play your arpeggios, and it's a very athletic thing to be a musician. You have to practice every day. And when I got into real estate, it was the same thing. We did daily actions, and I have a vision plan that I keep written down, and there's daily actions attached to a vision. And the people that become successful in life are the people who do something every day towards their goal, and then everybody else is just dreaming. So I've always built my entire success around doing something every day, no matter how big or small it is, to keep things moving towards what you're trying to do.
Yeah. So share with us, like, what are the some things that we talk about? I think we throw that ambiguous term around a lot. If you could share with the group, like, what are the some things that we should be doing every day with regard to our goals?
Well, I have 7 jars, and with the 7 jars, you put a jelly bean in the jar every day if you do the thing on the jar. So one jar is reading. Every day you got to read. The people who are very successful, if you read an hour every day, you're going to read 52 books a year. And if you read 52 books a year over 4 years, you've got more knowledge than a PhD.
Yeah.
So, if you read just an hour every day, that's the first jar. The second jar is writing. I've written 2 books now. I got 18 more to write. So with that works out really nicely to not only read but write. That keeps the flow of information in your brain. Then there's some physical activity. I'm not a big athlete anymore, but you got to do something every day to get your heart pumping, at least. The very bare minimum to keep you alive. I've got a jar for clean eating. Clean eating is very important because if you're eating dirty, your mind's going to be clouded. You're not going to have clear thinking. Then we've got affirmations, which is you telling you what you're going to do. Then we've got gratitude, which is being thankful for what you have, which really helps you turn around negative thinking. I got one more jar. I can go over and look what the last one is. But the point is, there's 7 of these jars, and every day when you do the thing you're supposed to do, you put the bean in the jar, and then if you break the habit, you got to dump the jar out.
Yeah. So, if you guys heard what he just said, it's really about the chunking down process, right? So we have these big goals sometimes, and we have to learn to chunk them down to what are the daily activities, the small little things. Anybody's read the book, The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, he talks about it's the time on task stuff, right? It's, what are the small little things that I do, the penny times.
Oh, here's the last jar. It's celibacy. It only has a couple beans in there. We're going to have to dump it out too. So watch out.
There you go. There you go. So it's about, the small little tasks that lead to the big results, right? A lot of times we want to look at, what's the lose weight pill, right? What's the take a pill, lose weight overnight while we sleep so tomorrow I can wake up and eat pizza. No, it's about the disciplines and the time on task over time. So the cool part is you're very focused on 7 key areas of your life. The 10 times. There you go. I'm gonna reference that here in a minute.
That's my daily discipline, the 10x planner. I'm always writing down my goals every day, my targets, what I'm trying to go after, my successes, and all that. This has helped me out. It's not a jar, but it's what I got.
Yeah, here's what we're looking at, guys. For those that are listening in, these two gentlemen here, they're focused, right? That's a key element of success is focus, and they have a daily focus. Stefan has his 7 jars that he knows he needs to focus on his daily activities, and Robert has his 10 times journal of what he's focusing on every day. So here's the key thing, though. Correct me if I'm wrong. Not every day works the way we want it, right? Life doesn't show up to meet our expectations, does it?
No.
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's part of being human is you have the ideal day and you have the not ideal day. Yesterday, I spent 12 hours on planes. I was on 3 planes yesterday. Well, when you're on 3 planes in a day, some of your habits are going to break down because you're just sitting in a tin can for 12 hours. So, you do fall off the horse, but the key is to get back on the horse.
I agree. I think one of the things that I find is I used to kind of have this almost rigid thing that things have to be a certain way. And working for Grant, I can't do that. It turned into, hey, I need you to do this. We're going to go over here. We're going to go shoot this. I went to New York with him, and we started at 4 a.m. and we didn't finish till 11 o'clock. And it taught me a lot about being extremely adaptable at like a drop of a dime. And this type of environment that we have, like yesterday, I was shooting content all day, putting content together. Then on top of that, I was needing to do sales calls and get video ready for the weekend. It's just, for me, I don't really come in with a plan. I have an idea, but I know that it's going to be, I need to adjust it any second. So it's having that attitude.
So one of the things I'd love for you guys to share with the group is, as a coach, mentor, and speaker and whatnot myself, one of the things I talk to a lot of people about is it's not always so much the focus on what we need to do, but making sure we have awareness of what we must not be doing, right? So there's the must do's and the must not do. So what would your recommendation be to the group? We'll start with Stefan, excuse me. What are the must not do's to make sure that you're staying consistent with your 7 key areas of your life?
Well, that's a tough one. There's that famous quote, I can resist anything except temptation itself. To stay consistent with it, I think one of the most important things is putting the right information and the right vision in your brain. I think that sometimes we lose our vision. Sometimes we stop reviewing our plans, and sometimes we lose all sight of what we're trying to do. And typically we can get into a cycle of hopelessness or helplessness. And we think that our little things that we do every day don't add up. And I think that's simply people taking their eyes off the prize and losing sight of why we're doing this and what the big vision is. Because a lot of this stuff, I'm working on a 3rd book right now. That's a big piece of software to write. And that's something we have to do something every day, and you have to push on it every day. Lots of people want to write books, but we lose the vision of why we're writing the book and why we want to write the book, and we lose sight of what it's going to look like when it's done. And then because we lost the vision, we see no value in doing the small tasks that add up to the big thing.
Yeah, awesome. Good stuff. What about you, Robert?
Well, I think what I do every day is I'm big on personal development. I go to courses every single night and have been for the past 6 to 8 months. And that's where things started to change. Like I know Stefan was talking about reading. I do a lot of reading, but I'm also very interested in maintaining my mental stability. And because there's so many things that happen at any given second that I just want to be ready for it. So I pay close attention to the types of information that I intake. The types of conversations that I have, the types of people that I surround myself with, because it's very easy to kind of fall off and get pulled in this direction. Whereas Napoleon Hill talks about drifting. It can happen, and it takes a lot of regimented disciplinary action for you to just say, I'm going to go this way. My blinders are up, and that's the only thing I got to focus on right now. So I personally do that through the development that I'm doing every night and coming into work every day with a plan. Even though the plan has to be adaptable, I'm in complete control of everything that I'm doing. And if I have something that's in the environment that doesn't belong, that could distract me or cause me to go off target, I'm going to remove that element. Whatever it is, TV, music, people, negative, whatever that is, it's just all out. Because I need to be the best version of myself that I can be and stay as focused and motivated as I can be to get to where I want to go in the next 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, so it's really removing all those distractions. I tell people number one ingredient to all failure is distractions.
Yeah.
You look at anyone's failure, failure results, they get off course. What happens? It's distraction. So cool. Here's one of the last questions I want to ask you guys. Then I want to save a few minutes to open up some questions from the chat. Robert, I'll start with you. Let's be real with them, right? Let's keep it real and say there's got to be a time that you wanted to quit, right? There has to be a time in your life something showed up. You're like, this is just crap. I quit. I'm going to go back into my comfort zone, live in my small little hole. Because I don't know about you guys, I've been there probably a half a dozen times in my life. Tell us about a time that you wanted to quit and why didn't you?
Oh, well, it was actually a few months back. I had a lot of influx of work coming in as far as clients, and I was just getting the hang of sales. I'm like, I figured it out. I know how to do this. I can close this. I know how to make this thing. And then was having a lot of personal problems, and all of a sudden the clients that I had brought on all left. They just were like, we're not paying you anymore. And I was like, oh my God. And in that particular moment, that was my first experience with having that kind of a deal. And I was just like, it wasn't everybody. It was about 2, but it was pretty significant because I hadn't experienced that before. And actually, I'll give you two versions, but this is more of like the business side. And having never experienced it, was like, what do I do? Like, I felt like a failure. I felt like I didn't do a good enough job. What was it? What happened? And it took a lot for me to accept responsibility, turn it around and say, okay, what can I learn from this? So the only thing that really kept me going in that moment was, I know where I want to go. I know what I'm trying to achieve. I want to be bigger than Ted Turner and CNN and run a digital network and that whole deal. And so Grant talks about it all the time. Like, when you have a failure, go back and write what your purpose is. And I did that. I would just be like, what is my purpose? Where do I want to go? What kind of life do I want to have? And how do I start creating? What steps can I do right this second? Not tomorrow, not next week. What can I do in this moment right now that'll start moving me back in the direction of where I want to go? And that was how I found the consistent action. I just started repeating those actions over and over and over and over and over again. And I haven't had an issue like that since. It's just been consistent drive, motivation, and focus on my purpose and where I want to go.
Awesome. Key word there, guys, purpose. Awesome. Thanks, Robert. Stefan, how about you?
Well, I've had a couple days in my life, in my business, where I actually haven't had any fun. And, it's funny when you're having fun in your business and things happen, that's okay. But when you're not having any fun and things happen, that's not as much fun at all. So I've had days where I want to quit. But the thing that keeps me in is I'm stuck in my business. I can't leave because it's my personal brand. Like, my business is called Stefan Arnio, and nobody else can do that business but me. So I have wanted to quit. There's many times you want to quit. There's days where you lose money. There's days where people quit on you on your team. There's days where you have your organization fall apart. There's days where you get magic invoices you didn't expect. And, sometimes you want to quit, but for me, I've burned the boats, so I can't quit. I was thinking to myself, I was landing on a plane in Chicago and looking out the window, and I thought to myself, what would I do if I wasn't doing this? And the answer is nothing. So I think coming back to Robert, this is purpose. I have a big purpose, and I have a big purpose to develop and help other people in my business now. And I realized that that's work that only I can do. Nobody else can do this work. And it's part of my job on this earth. And one day I'll die, and that's going to be fine. But I need to do as much of my work as possible and achieve as many things before then, so that we add value to the world. And one day there's going to be nothing left but the work I leave behind. So I do have a big purpose, and I think that that's a great thing that Robert said. But another thing to add is, let's burn the boat so you can't leave.
It's so true. So true.
Yeah, so what Stefan just said there is, he's talking about burn the boats. If anyone heard that concept, to understand that concept is to understand the etymology and the understanding of the word to decide. And the root of it is to cut off, right? And that's the essence of burn the boats. And, and I think what happens for a lot of successful people is they just one day wake up and they say, I'm going to decide, I'm going to cut everything else off. And this is it. Like, I'm all in on this. And I think what happens a lot of times where people go astray from their path of success is they have a plan B. Like, oh, if this doesn't work, I'll go do this. And yet they never really bought into their plan A, because that plan B it's like their safety blanket. It's their comfort zone. And the second on our plan A, we start hitting that resistance that requires the persistence element, we abort and go to plan B. So great stuff. So, hey, we've got about a little bit less. We've got about 8 minutes for some questions. So if anybody wants to try and ask a question for Stefan or Robert via chat, I'll be the person that kind of communicates that. So if you have any questions, please feel free to add in a little quick message via the chat. And in the meantime, Robert,
one thing I wanted to add on to that, because I actually got to bounce out and get back into my groove here. But I remember I had moved back to Miami after that experience in Trinidad where I just got kicked out and I couldn't get home. And I was living in a hostel with 6 other people. And you can imagine what that's like. Did that for 3 months. Don't do it. I remember just kind of sitting on the side of the road, like I was eating some food, and I literally told myself, I said, I literally have no choice but to make this work. I have no choice but to succeed at this moment. I mean, I can't go any lower. The next step lower is death. And I'm just like, I have no choice but to make this work. And I remember the moment, I remember the time, I remember when it happened, and that's where I made that huge commitment. And Stefan talked about burning the boats, and Grant talks about burning the boats. It's, okay, that's it. I've got nothing else to do. Goodbye. It's in flames. Let's roll. And that's basically how I've adopted the mindset from that point forward. 2.5 years later, here I am. So
cool. Quick question for you guys. John wants to know, both as an author and consumer, what are your thoughts on audiobooks?
Well, I love audiobooks. Both of my books have been published in audio form. And really, I think audiobooks are a great thing because you don't have to actively read them. You can put them on and passively consume them. So I try to listen to audiobooks when I'm at the gym in the morning. If I'm going to spend an hour at the gym, I might as well get an hour of reading done at the same time. And I think it's one of the most efficient ways to learn. It's one of the best ways to learn. And your retention is about double of what you hear over what you read. So I think audiobooks are great. And both of my books I published are available in audiobook form. So you can get them at moneypeopledeal.com. I've actually got the book right here. You can see this is one of my books. You can get that at moneypeopledeal.com, the audiobook version, or my other book, Self-Made, at selfmadeconfessions.com.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
cool.
I
Thank you.
agree completely. When I'm driving, I'm listening to audio programs. That was the news. I took the music off and I just started switching it out with, if I'm going somewhere and I've got time, the audio program's on and running.
Cool. So I'll just share with you guys real quick. I'm a kind of disciple of the Tony Robbins organization, and Tony talks about net time, no extra time. And I buy into that philosophy. I mean, if I'm walking my dog, driving to the mall or anywhere, if I'm on the treadmill, I always have an audiobook going. It's that same concept. If you're not reading for an hour a day, I believe if you're not reading or listening to something that's improving and growing your mind, your mind's dying. So John says, to our guests, deeply apologize for the tech errors. Sorry, guys, you're both a professional, and he appreciates you both. So If no other further questions, I'm going to let you guys get back to your day. Thank you, everyone, for joining. John apologizes, and I look forward to seeing anybody here again in the near future on Future Blab. So, Robert, we salute you. Stefan, we salute you. Thank you, guys. Have an awesome day.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Take
guys.
care. Thank you.